Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing some upcycles with some dollar store, Dollar Tree stuff mixed in there as well. I hope that you enjoy these rustic farmhouse inspired projects. Let's get started. Up first, I have this old washboard. Actually, it's old, but not like old as in vintage. It was a Dollar Tree or a Dollar General piece, and the top had like this fake chalkboard and it was all messed up. So I'm gonna just sand it down and get it. I was just kind of seeing where I could get it. I wasn't sure if I was gonna have to paint it or what we were gonna do here, but I sanded it down basically to the MDF material behind it and worked with it from there. So I'm scraping because I couldn't get my sander like all the way into the corners. But the point here is to, find something and make it over. If you can find an actual old one in a thrift store or an antique mall or whatever, awesome. But I had this here, so we're gonna make it look old and we're gonna give it a complete makeover. So once I got it all down to the bare bones, I wanted to make it look kind of like it was wood. So I'm painting it a couple of different colors. I'm going with some tans and some browns and kind of layering it. Here I go with a very thin paint. I'm finding use for this awful Dollar General chalk paint. And I'm using a really crusty brush because I didn't want it to be like smooth and I wanted it to have a little bit of texture. And then once that dries, we'll go back over it again with a darker color. Basically, I'm just trying to get a kind of a wood kind of appearance. So now I'm going on with this like mineral colored paint with a stencil brush, and I'm not going super smooth. I'm just going back with different paints, different brushes, trying to get a desired look and texture. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Leanne and I enjoy sharing budget-friendly DIYs here on this channel. Whether it is upcycles, thrift flips, whatever the case is, I like to do it on a budget. And if you're into that kind of thing, I would hope that you would subscribe to my channel. That will help ensure that you actually get notified when I post new videos because YouTube is finicky. Now for the outside piece here, I wanted to stain what I believe is, I don't know that it's real wood, but I'm going over it with antique wax, but I felt like it was just soaking it all up. So I did mist it with my little spray bottle a little bit so that I had the option of wiping it on and wiping it off because I didn't want it too dark. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that top piece. Does that kind of look like it was, a wood piece, the piece we worked on in the beginning? And then we're going to go on to our metal piece. That just came out with some tabs in the back. It's great. And I'm going in with some different brown paints, dabbing it on with a stencil brush in different places. I'm starting to go heavier in like certain spots because I'm trying to make it look rusty. Now, I'm mixing in a little bit of orange and then going back with some brown. If you don't know Chris from At Home with Chris, check out her channel. She does some really great rusty techniques on a lot of her projects. She does a great job with it. She uses cinnamon, and which I actually think is great. I just need to buy some cheap cinnamon to keep in my craft room. But if you want some more ideas of how to get this look, be sure to check out her channel. But I am just layering on like I did with the top piece, but with a different method, just going back and forth until I have it looking the way I want. And then I do add in some baking soda to give us a little bit of texture. And I just kind of work that in with my paint that was on my paintbrush. And then eventually, once I get some of these parts built up, we're gonna go across the whole thing because I don't want any shiny metal, but I don't want it all to, I want it to look kind of like uneven, so that it looks more natural. I don't know. Let me know what you think. If you're not into rusty, crusty stuff, then you might not be interested in this. But I thought it was fun to make this look old. So here I am just going back in with some paint, kind of filling in all of the gaps. Again, layering the different color browns and just trying to get that rusty look. Pop that back into our piece and we're all done. What do you guys think about this? Let me know. I am going to put this on my wall in my laundry room with some command strips, but I just have it here kind of leaning up against something so you guys can see it. But let me know what you guys think. How did I do? I thought about adding some more embellishments, but I really, really just wanted it to look old and rusty crusty. For this one, I wanted to upcycle an old candle jar I don't use a ton of candles and didn't use any for years, but I kind of started using them again, and this jar was too pretty to pass up. So I am trying to get the remaining like soot out of the top with some rubbing alcohol, but to get the candle out of my jar, I had burned it down, you know, as low as you're supposed to, and then poured in hot water, and then the wax will come loose and come to the top and then harden again. You can pull it out, and then I hand washed it with some hot soapy water. And then I have these transfers. Let me know if you still have some rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. I'm hoping they come out with some new ones. I understand that they have been hard to find lately, but I have some going way back. Actually, these ones were from my mom, and when she offered them to me, I was like, yes, please. These were like coveted at one point, and I always had a hard time finding them. And it turns out she had bought several. So anyways, I thought these would be really pretty to just put across this, and I just kind of came up with my own pattern. Now, this is a ridged candle jar, so I'm holding it very firmly in place so that it doesn't move, and using my fingernail to get into all of the ridges. I found my fingernail worked better than any other tool. A popsicle stick does often work, and I think that actually would have worked really good on this surface, but this is what I did, and it transferred well onto the surface. It was the ridges that made it a little bit hard, and it isn't smooth and perfect, but that's okay. If I had done it on a smooth surface, it would have looked, I don't want to say more perfect, but I guess like more perfect. So anyways, I'm going to just do this. I kind of alternated heights and kind of just came up with like a pattern and did this all the way around. But I love upcycling things that you have laying around. I've used like jars that I've gotten peaches in, and any like pretty jar or container. I think it's fun to just try to make them over and use them for something. And this is just so pretty. I felt like I couldn't just throw it in the recycle bin. So I'm going to put these transfers all the way around. You could also stencil. I'm not sure how stenciling would work with the ridges, but anyways. You can get transfers not just from the Dollar Tree. You can get them online. There's a lot of them on Amazon, and we're going to go all the way around. And then because it didn't transfer seamlessly because of the texture, I was like, let's just, go with it. I love rusty, crusty, old farmhouse feeling. So we're going to go in with some antique wax on a stencil brush, very little on my brush, and I'm just going all around it and just kind of making it look a little bit more worn so that the worn transfer looks more intentional. And going to go across the top here. I don't want that to be all pristine. Let me know what you guys think about this. I just threw some scraps of greenery in there, but I think this would also be nice for maybe like on your desk for some pencils and pens and that kind of a thing. There's a lot of different things you could store in here. Some Q-tips in your bathroom. I think it just came out great. We've got a trash to treasure here just using a can from the kitchen, and I cleaned it out really good. When I craft with these, I end up soaking them with some hot soapy water because of course it's hard to get in there, the crevices, like without cutting your hand. So just give it a really, really good cleaning. And then we're going to do the crackle effect. So I am covering this with some white school glue, the liquid school glue. And depending on how much crackle you want can depend on how thick you use the glue. But I find that this method works pretty well for me. And while the glue is still wet, or you can let it dry, but while it is wet, I'm going over it with some white paint. Now the key is you don't want to go back and forth over it and pull the glue back up. I had a little bit of a tricky time because I am getting to the bottom of this paint and it is a little bit thick. I added a little bit of water to thin it out, but I didn't want it to be too thin because I can't just do like a bunch of coats. So yeah, it was a little bit more challenging because of the condition of my paint, but I am determined to use it all and not waste it. And really in the end, it did work out just fine. So you can let your glue dry or not, that is up to you, and put on a coat of whatever paint, trying to just do one stroke across. And then I am using my heat gun to dry my paint to speed up the crackling. Now, you don't want high heat on metal, that would burn my hand. I have my heat gun without doing the high heat. There's like a temperature gauge on there. And you can see the crackle developing as it dries. And I was like, yes, this is working. So I've had very, very good success with this method. So if you've had any trouble, I encourage you to give it a try. We're going to set that aside to let it completely dry and work on some embellishment. I have this brown cardstock and I'm wanting to make a tag and I'm wanting it to look old. So I am tearing my piece, and then when I pulled out my stamps, I realized this piece was not big enough. So I'm tearing it again. And depending on the direction you tear depends on how the edges look. So go with it however you like it. and I still didn't end up making it big enough, but you'll see how I fix that. And I'm wanting to crumble this up because I'm wanting it to look old. It is a little bit harder to do with a thicker cardstock versus a scrapbook paper, but we're going to make it work. And I actually ripped it a little bit, but it's okay because we're looking for that old worn look. And then I also, in my scraps of transfers, I had this part of a transfer from the Dollar Tree. It has like writing on it, but you can't like read what it says. So I'm going to transfer this across the middle, and I just put the backing of the transfer sheet on the bottom so that I didn't transfer the transfer, I know I'm saying transfer a lot, onto my mat. So I put it over like that white backing sheet, and we're going to just rub this on. And then I am going to use a little bit of that bottom piece to add more to the sides, just because you can't really tell what any of it says. So you can't really, it looks natural. So I just did that to kind of fill it in. It doesn't go across the whole piece, but I've just had a little too much empty space on that side. If you are enjoying this video, please help me out by giving it a thumbs up, leaving a comment down below, and hyping the video if you are able. All of those things help my channel out, and I appreciate it. Now I am going in with these stamps from the Dollar Tree, and we are going to stamp on the word bloom. I am using a different ink. I have one from the Dollar Tree. This one is from Hobby Lobby. It's just a little bit darker, and with all of the texture, I wanted to make sure you could still see the words. And cleaning off my stamps with a baby wipe, and then I realized I made this too small. I'm like, there's not enough room. Because of how the stamps are, they space the letters out a little bit further, and I was like, all right. I literally, during this moment, I'm like, what did I do? I don't have another transfer. I ruined this. So I just stamped it, and then I was like, I can find the piece that I tore off of here because I still had all of the scraps, and we're going to piece it together once again. It's supposed to look old and worn, so who cares? And then I re-stamped the M so that it was on the piece that we added on, and in the end, it looks great. Now we're back to our can. The white paint is all dry, and I'm going in with a mild rusty look, just with a little bit of brown paint, and I'm mainly just doing the top and bottom here because we're going to put this tag on, which is going to cover a good bit of the middle section, and I'm just adding a little bit of it just to make it look a little bit more old and rusty. Now I'm going to go in with a thick coat of Mod Podge. Because this is a thicker cardstock, it was a little bit harder to get it to stick down, but we're going to start with our little piece here, and I'm going to put some at the underneath and on top. And as I started doing this, I was like, oh no, is this going to make the ink bleed? And it did not, thank goodness. And I am just pressing it down with my paintbrush and the Mod Podge. And then we're going to go back and add the other piece, and we're just going to line it up. You can see it a little bit that it was torn, but it looks good in my opinion, because it just looks worn. And I'm going to just work this in again with a thicker cardstock, lots of Mod Podge, and I just kept pressing it with a lot of pressure from the paintbrush, pressing it into the can. And then I did a coat of Mod Podge around the rest of the paint just so that it had the same appearance and finish across the whole thing. I didn't want it to look like there was Mod Podge. And it is a matte finish, so that's nice. And then I'm just going to take this little scrap piece of twine across this once it is all dried, and I just wrapped it around a few times and tied it in a knot. Just thought a little, I don't know, a little embellishment. I didn't want to add a whole lot here. I wanted to keep it minimal and rustic. I did kind of scoot it down over the label so that you could see it a little bit more. And then, yeah, then we're going to go ahead and add in some florals. And I had these that I just cut up into pieces until I had enough to fit in there, and I thought it looked good. I think this looks great with the flowers, but it could also just be used for pencils or scissors or whatever on your desk. But I do love how this one came out. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like to do the upcycling and trash to treasure? I like to mix that in with a lot of Dollar Tree items. My main goal is to craft on a budget. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. And if you made it to the end, make sure that you leave me a comment down below, even if it's just like a smiley face emoji, to let me know that you are here. And I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.